My name's Owain Campton, and on the 7th of March I'm running for GUU President.
Great. So just start off, some of our readers who might not be fully aware of GUU and how it runs, could you explain what your responsibilities would entail as President?
So one thing we have to be clear of is President isn't a role to go in with these big ideas and big projects that you want to execute. It is primarily a role of management, of cross-campus relations, and just spearheading the whole board as such to make sure we're moving forward with all the projects that we do throughout the year, be it organising and helping make sure that PSMs are on top of our Hive nights, to making sure our conveners are supported within their roles. I do have a manifesto, and my manifesto does have a number of key points in which I will focus on and try to move the board towards, be it from welfare to board efficacy and union stability. However, the majority of the time, that's what flavours and directs my role as I support the rest of the board and move us forward.
Okay. So for the people that haven't read your manifesto, what are you going to be doing for GUU members? Like, not the people who aren't really thoroughly involved in the union, they've just got the card so that they can get cheap higher entry.
Yeah, well, first thing I'll say is read the manifestos. I think in a contested president's election, it is very important to actually see what we're standing behind and what we want to do. What I'm looking to do throughout is, to start off with, my welfare point is to try and make sure that we are battling this mental health crisis we're seeing across campus on a united front. So I will be working with other student bodies to make sure we're offering what I would call complementary services to, say, the wait list for counselling. So when you are waiting on the counselling list, maybe there are events and services that we can provide, like, say, chat groups or other supportive networks at the union that will just help you while you're still waiting for counselling from the university. On top of that, I'm looking at doing certain things to improve the membership perks, because and also make sure people are aware of these membership perks. For instance, currently you can use your card, and if you buy a pint you get points put on that card, and once you've reached something like 2,350 points, which is equivalent of spending about 23 quid in the beer bar, you can get a free pint. I'm looking at expanding that so you can also save points from, say, the union kitchen, the cafes, to make sure that you're always saving and you have the best incentive to come and spend your time at the union. I also want to create policies that make sure that everyone is safeguarded, everyone knows what their rights are as a member, and this will be in both looking and strengthening the policies that we already have, but also just making sure that everyone is aware. So this looks like us improving the website so that you can find all the information that you need in one place, as well as making sure that we PR it on both Facebook and on our notice boards.
Yeah. So you're talking about working with other student bodies to provide this sort of complementary services. How are you going to make sure that this doesn't become CAMS Part 2 and it's just another thing that people are on a massive waiting list for?
I think the first thing we'll have to do is recognise we don't have all the answers, that us as a union, we are student-led, we do have alumni board members that help guide us, but first of all we will want to go ahead and converse with the SRC and GUU and QM to make sure that we are all working on this together. I think what it looks like, as I said before, is we will be providing complementary services, which will be things like chat groups and other supportive networks, which people can come and attend and just have the support of a network of people there that are going through the same thing, maybe being led by an outside counsellor that we may bring in to be able to just have some form of support. Looking then as well, working with, say, GUU, I believe that some of the candidates are also looking at bringing this idea of, gym buddies, so that when you're on the waiting list you get a gym buddy and you can go to the gym and do sports and just keep you going and keep having these activities that allow you just to keep moving through it when you're in a tough spot. Because at the moment, with the long waiting lists, the worst thing in the world to do is be, okay, you're on the waiting list, 3 months waiting period, and you're doing nothing. So it's just about offering complementary services. It's not necessarily about offering one-on-one counselling, but offering services that you can attend that will be mentally positive while you're on this waiting list.
How many students do you think this sort of service would cater for?
I think at the moment given our union membership numbers being around 8,000, from what it seems, about a third of all students are suffering from mental health problems. Of the third that are suffering from mental health problems, about half of that are then on the university counselling service or on the waiting list at the moment from our membership, I mean. So that looks like there may be 1,000 members that may want access to this, and that is a large number, and I am completely aware of this. However, the best we can do is just start now to be providing these services so we can start creating the support network, so as we move on into further years down the line, that we can try and safeguard all our members.
So in terms of welfare and mental health issues, you discussed in your manifesto about opening up the whole board to complaints procedures, because writing to just the president can be daunting for someone trying to put through a complaint. But do you not think that this could place extra pressure on people who are already giving themselves an extra workload on top of the uni work?
I do. I think that it does add an extra level of stress. However, I also admit within my manifesto that I wouldn't do this without, one, guidance from the board, and two, significant training for the board to make sure that they are capable of partaking in this complaints procedure. I think that the thing is that the board members are there to represent and look out for the student body and the student members at our union. And I think when the only person you can complain to at the moment is the president, we are losing a lot of those complaints. Some people do feel disillusioned from the union because they don't feel that they can come to the president because they don't think either the president will take them as seriously, or they just don't feel comfortable around the president, which means that they do feel pushed away. I think opening it up and allowing board members to take these complaints on mean that our members feel still connected to the union. But also in my manifesto I say the president will walk with this board member through the whole complaints procedure. It won't be the board members necessarily making decisions or deciding what goes on next, but they are the person that pushes the message from the complainant to the president, because they're the ones this person feels more comfortable speaking to. I think the stress may be added on to. However, I think with the president's guidance as well as significant training, they would be able to actually fulfill the role.
So you also talked about working with sort of minority clubs, such as GUU LGBT, and getting them more involved with the union. At the moment, it can be quite expensive for societies on campus to get involved with the union. For example, if a club was to hold a pub quiz in Bayball, they would have to pay a fee, where there's a lot of pubs in West End that would actually pay societies to have their pub quiz in the bar. What are you going to do to make the GUU more accessible for clubs and societies? So
this is the point that, although you led off with the GUU LGBTQ+, this goes more into my clubs and societies point, where I would be working extensively with the Assistant Honorary Secretary, who kind of spearheads that area of the union, as well as our union managers, to make sure that the deals that we are offering and the things that we can offer clubs and societies are as competitive as possible to the rest of the West End, to make sure that you're getting the value for money that you want. I mean, we benefit from having you all in our union because you're going to buy pints, you're going to buy drinks, you're going to buy food. However, if we're outpricing ourselves so you don't think that you can actually come in and you can hold your quiz there, then there's no point in kind of having those policies in place, because it's not mutually beneficial. We want to make clubs and societies feel that the union is a home for them, so we will look at all the policies, all the offers that we have in place to make sure that they are as cost effective as possible so that we can get you in.
You also point out upcoming issues that may arise around campus development with the James McKean Smith Learning Teaching Hub. Do you think that the ideas that you've put forward will do enough to combat any potential problems that may arise?
I don't think you can solve this in 1 year. I think what I'm doing is laying the groundwork for the union to actually look forward to this issue, because it's not going to be a massive pressing issue within this year, I'm not going to lie. But within the next 5 years, 10 years, we are going to see a shift from campus from this area here down towards Byres Road. And the union at the moment isn't looking forward to that. It's looking in very short term, kind of 1 and 2 year 2 year segments, and just seeing the projects that it's doing there. We need to be focusing on the future to make sure that we're best prepared for that. So I'll be laying the groundwork in trying to set up exploratory committees to see what we can do, just so that our board has that mentality of looking towards this campus development as an issue that will affect us in the future.
And the image of the GUU is something that has been discussed with other people that we've been interviewing for elections. The GUU can have an image as a place that isn't inclusive, seen as sexist, a lads' club. What are you going to do to tackle this problem?
I think this is an issue with many institutions. I think all institutions have cliques, be it SRC, like GUSA, QM or GUU. I think the important thing first is to acknowledge that clique, to acknowledge that kind of stereotype that we have around us, and then working with other institutions across campus to make sure that we're working as a united front to better the student experience, so that everyone feels comfortable going to any union or council or the sports association, just to make sure that they feel comfortable. I think after a year where we've had the first all-female exec, we are starting to push forward. We are coming a long way from where we were, say, 10 years ago. But I think that we need to just keep focusing on that. I think we need to keep pushing ourselves forward. This looks more like making sure that our board members are as welcoming and as friendly and as approachable as possible, so that everyone feels comfortable. This looks like PRing all our opportunities so everyone has equal access to actually partake in what the union offers, as well as just making sure our policies on, say, things like harassment, sexism, racism, all that are so airtight that we are combating it from the policies onwards, to make sure that we are a safe environment for everyone to come to. We can tackle this just one step at a time, but we are moving forward, and with help from board we can keep pushing that forward.
So do you think that there is sort of an ingrained inclusivity problem, or do you think it is just a stereotype?
I do think it's a bit of a stereotype. I think for me, who was on the niche of debates, who was kind of off to one side within the union, who saw the opportunity of libraries and thought, yeah, I think that'll be fun, who had never written for the GUU before, and then thought, I'll put in an application, I'll see what happens, and I put loads of effort into my application, and I was taken on. I think, for me, that shows that people are at least willing to look at outside people, or look at people that aren't kind of within the central union clique as such, and accept them. I think we do at times have this stereotype of being maybe laddish, or the horrible things that the union has had connected to it from the past have kind of stuck around. But we are moving forward, and I think PRing all our opportunities and making sure our freshers helpers are as welcome and as inclusive as possible, and working with cross campus, we can just make people aware that we want you all to come. It's beneficial for everyone to come to the union, because then the union is as vibrant and as fun an environment as possible. So we want everyone to come in, and I think this is something that we just need to work towards, inclusivity.
You also discussed, in terms of making the union more accessible for people across campus, you discussed mandatory first year positions on various committees. Do you think there's a market for that? Will people actually be interested in filling these positions?
So this is something that I am kind of springboarding off our last president, Ailsa. Ailsa introduced this policy in her manifesto, and I was the only committee to really follow through with it, with Libraries Committee, and I did get a bunch of applications. I got a number of applications and then took on 2 first-year writers for the GUU. They have, I think they've loved their time, you'd have to ask them, but they have been working hard. But I think the fact that I PR'd it, the fact that I got a number of applications, shows there is appetite, there is the want to work within the union. The other committees also have space to be able to do this. The debates could have first year representative come on just for basic things like just shadowing the other members to see how debates committee runs. Entertainments committee could have a first year representative that is good at guitar, good at music, able to perform at open mic during those lulls, as well as learn how to set up the equipment, be it in open mic or in Hive. And then games committee, first years definitely can, say, create a pub quiz or help with the other games they hold during the month of games. I think there is appetite, and I think this is definitely a way to help engage first years even more so.
So do you believe that the GUU has a democracy problem because you're the only campus board that still hand count votes? You don't allow reopening of nominations, and your opponent in this race is refusing to interview with the Glasgow Guardian. So do you believe that there is an issue there?
I think that we have to be careful about how we define kind of the democratic process, especially within student elections. Mm-hmm. I think quite often it comes down to this idea of popularity and who you have on your side. This is why I'm encouraging people to go read my manifesto and my opponents and then decide which candidate is best for them. I think opening it to digital voting may be not necessarily dangerous, but not necessarily be in the best interest of the union, because the people that care about the union, the people that really want the union to be doing well, are going to come down and vote on the day. I think this is something that we can discuss as a board and look at moving forward. However, I don't necessarily see the issue within the in-person voting. Perhaps if we opened it up to be able to vote by proxy or vote remotely, if you really can't get in, that might be a way to engage, say, home students or students that are away at the time that actually care. I'm just not 100% sure how opening online voting would actually solve the problems of student engagement.
But do you not think that at the moment the problem with campus elections and the lack of engagement is that it's kind of the people that are running and then their mates are the only people that know about it, and by making people have to come down to the GUU to put votes in by hand, they might not know where to go, they might be too shy to ask where to go. You're kind of keeping that in its bubble of it's just the GUU and the people who are there all the time that care about it, when actually the votes and the people that get elected will impact everyone no matter how much they are involved with the GUU.
Yeah, no, and I agree with the point you have there. I actually think that what you just said has just shown the issue as well. You say that the issue is they might not know where to go, they might know how to get down and like how to vote. I think this is also an issue regardless. It's about PRing the voting, it's about making sure people are aware that elections are happening, making sure people are aware of the candidates, their manifestos and the platforms they're running on. I think changing the voting system doesn't necessarily deal with it. In fact, I think quite possibly, on your point, having a different voting system which has a bit of kind of jazz to it in comparison to the rest of campus elections actually acts as a incentive to come down and vote, because people are like, oh, this is interesting, this is peculiar, this is different, you actually have to go in and vote, whereas the rest of campus you can do so lying in bed, and it means that people aren't really necessarily cognitive of needing to go and vote and not necessarily think that it's, oh yes, I actually have to go and vote for SRC, I actually have to vote for QMU and GUSA elections. I think because we say on our Facebook, because we advertise that you should come down, you should vote because your union matters to you and the people that come on board will matter in the shaping of the union's future, I think it does actually add something. I think what you bring from your point just clarifies the need for better student engagement via PR and better connection with the student body to make sure that they're aware of just how important it is to get the right representatives on board. I don't necessarily think changing the election process to purely online at this state without having too much discussion with board is the best idea, though it is something that we may look at in the future.
So do you think that the GUU does not have a problem with democracy then?
I think the GUU has the exact same problem that all student bodies have at the moment, and that is students aren't getting quite as involved within student politics. Mm-hmm. I think this was pointed out actually in a Guardian article or an editorial that was reading recently that pointed out that, listen, the problem with student politics and the problem with student democracy is we're not getting the engagement. Mm-hmm. So I think we suffer from the same problems the SRC has, or GUU, GUSA or QM, and I think that we do just need to, one, PR the positions better, two, make sure that while we're on board for the year, we are engaging with the student members more to make sure they're aware of what we do and how interesting and fun it is to be on board, and then move forward from there. I think it's about getting students in rather than the actual democratic processes as they happen.
And what do you think about, because this is a contested election, your opponent refusing to interview with the Glasgow Guardian and then sort of not involving themselves in the broadest election coverage on campus?
I'm not going to comment on the person competing. I'll tell you why I'm interviewing. Because his campaign is his own. I want the students to go out and look at our campaigns together and then decide which they think is best for the role. But the reason that I'm interviewing is because ultimately the president is the spokesperson for the union. They need to engage with media, they need to be engaging with the student population, and I think it's important for me to reach out to the membership via whatever form it may take, be it my Facebook profile, our campaign page, which has all my manifesto points, my experience and my experience of the union, or coming and speaking with you today. I think it is important just to keep the voters informed and allow them to make an actual informed choice.
And what are you offering GUU members and students that Matthew Miller is not?
What I'm offering is stability and experience above the rest. I've held a higher position on board, which included sitting on the finance committee this year, which means that I do have a clearer grasp of the union's finances versus the present student members. I've been involved in making decisions regarding the proposals we bring to full board and deciding which expenditures we're willing to make versus which expenditures we have to table for the moment. On top of that, I ran and chaired my own committee as Libraries Committee, which is, a smaller version of board. It's made up of our members and committee members, and we as conveners direct them to try to execute our remit, which for me was producing the GUU magazine, as well as producing events like the 4-day art exhibition or the photo exhibition in Freshers Week, our open mic slam poetry events, as well as our Libraries Live Lounge events, which allowed student bands to perform within the union in front of their friends as well as other members. I think what I can also say is, have a look at my manifesto, have a look at the time I have spent thinking about it, the way that I've analysed points, and the way that I am also willing to accept I don't know everything. I'm willing to go cross campus. I'm wanting to build those connections to make sure that we're working as a united front. And honestly, the amount of time and effort and energy and thought that I put into my manifesto shows that I am not putting myself into this half-heartedly. I am putting my whole self into this because I want what's best for the union, what's best for its members, and ultimately just what is better for everyone. Because I think, as you can see with my welfare and inclusion points, these are points quite close to my heart and things that I do think we need to be focusing on. So ultimately, I put the energy, I put the graft in, I've got the experience.